All right, Justin. B.J. Hill. He's in his third year coming out of NC State. He's 6'3", 311 pounds, 25 years old. He was a third-round pick, the 69th overall pick in 2018, part of Dave Gettleman's first draft class. Justin, he had an exciting rookie season from what we saw. We expected a jump. We didn't necessarily see it, but we'll get into it because it's not necessarily black and white, like, oh, look, his stats were worse in his second year. But what do you got on him, Justin?
Well, I have a little fun fact to start off about BJ Hill. Last year, when I was doing his previewing the Giants episode on a different podcast that I did, his sister actually responded to me, and Tiffany Nicole, shout out, Tiffany Nicole's sister, BJ Hill, and Wikipedia said that his birthday was in 1997. Turns out that his birthday is in 1995. Wikipedia has fixed that. But if you were looking on BJ Hill's Wikipedia page when he was drafted, because you didn't know who he was, and you saw that his birthday is in 1997, well, change your frame of thinking, change your mind, because he was actually born in 1995. And I felt terrible because Tiffany Nicole probably clicked on that episode last year, was expecting to hear all factual and correct information about her brother, but then she didn't. She heard that he was born in the wrong year, and I lied.
Well, Tiffany, you're probably going to listen to this episode, so it's good to hear from you again. I didn't mess that up. I'm not dumb like Justin. All right, let's talk about it because, I mean, in 2019, he had 36 tackles, 1 sack, and 2 tackles for a loss coming off of a rookie season, Justin, where he had 5.5 sacks. Okay, and I know every fan base in the world falls chop if they say, see a guy's rookie season, like 5 sacks. Mm-hmm. Well, surely he'll have 8, 9 in year 2, and that's not the way it goes. Leonard Williams was brought over, and that changed things. Here's what I'll just say as just a bland take about B.J. Hill. I think he's as good as a 4th defensive tackle that you'll find in the NFL. And I know that's not like the most ringing endorsement, but I mean, when are you going to find a 4th defensive tackle that's as good as B.J. Hill?
It's tough, Bobby, because yes, I think the expectation for BJ Hill, and yes, where we think of him now is like, yes, for the role that he plays, we love him in that role. But then when you pull the curtain back and when you say, well, this guy was a 3rd-round pick, and the expectations that you have with some of these Giants players that are coming from this, Dave Gettleman drafts, that they should be hooking up. These should be the years that they need to be contributing more and they need to provide more, and especially a 3rd-round pick. That's a guy that you kind of expect to provide some good value to your team, and he hasn't really done it. Now, granted, it's because there's a lot of people in front of him. So the defensive tackle, the defensive end room in the 3-4 system, it's a crowded room. So you can't really blame him when he comes in. He does some pretty good stuff. When he had his 2 quarterback hits last year, Bobby, he only had 2 quarterback hits and 1 sack. So that 1 sack came against the Washington Football Club, Week 16, when he only got 24% of the defensive snaps, and then the next week he got another quarterback hit when he only got 18% of the defensive snaps. So, you know what I mean? Can't fault him for getting the low snap count and then not being able to do a lot with that.
Yeah, I mean, he went from taking 59% of the snaps in 2018 to 44%, which is, in total 76% of what he got his rookie season. That's also the 5.5 sack number. I mean, 3 of those were in one game versus Chicago, and I don't expect a defensive tackle to, replicate 3 sack games, every year, unless you're Aaron Donald or J.J. Watt or somebody. He is one of the reasons, Justin, I didn't like. It makes me not like the Leonard Williams trade even more because I feel like he's good for that 3rd defensive tackle spot in that revolving door, and he still needs to he's still good enough to get reps. As far as just him as a player, he's very strong at the impact. I mean, we saw his combine. He had 35 bench press reps.
Yeah.
And he's a guy who uses his hands. He has very active hands. It's hard. That's something very hard to teach interior defensive linemen. A lot of times they want to just, they put their hands out and they don't really use them. They just try and bully. And he's active with his hands where he can get off plays. I think he's got good instincts. Justin, I'll ask this. Do you think he could have like a Dalvin Tomlinson-like trajectory? I mean, because you look at Dalvin Tomlinson's first 2 years, and I mean, he had more tackles, but B.J. Hill's stats are a lot better. I mean, look at Dalvin Tomlinson, and he played more. I'm looking at Dalvin Tomlinson. He played more reps each year. Dalvin Tomlinson's first 2 years combined 1 sack, 109 tackles, and 6 tackles for a loss. I mean, BJ Hill doubles and triples that at some points.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no because at least when you watched Dalvin Tomlinson, you got the feeling that he was disruptive, and especially as a run defender. And now what we've seen, especially in 2019, when Leonard Williams came to town, what you saw is that he started to get the interior pressure a little bit more in the pass rushing. It kind of came. But BJ Hill, and again, I don't really want to hate him. It's kind of just really a crappy situation with Leonard Williams in here, so that's an extra body that you're going to be fighting for reps with. And the fact that he was taken in the 3rd round, Bobby, I unfortunately really think if BJ Hill was taken in the 5th round, I'd feel a lot better about his presence rather than him being a 3rd round pick. And it's like, okay, this guy's literally 4th on the depth chart, which kind of stinks.
Yeah,
and
but that's because we have, a guy like Leonard Williams who we just paid 16, a 1st round pick in Dexter Lawrence, and then Dalvin Tomlinson who kind of jumped off onto the scene this year. So it's not like he's 4th on the depth chart because he just there's 3 guys, he just sucks. It's because he has 3 really solid options ahead of him.
So I guess I'm more mad at Dave Gettleman than BJ Hill. I guess that's the main consensus.
It's another negative on the Leonard Williams trade is because it's like we both think Leonard Williams is a good player and he's obviously better than BJ Hill, but it's like we're all right at that position. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, BJ Hill is more than serviceable to get by without having to maybe pay a $16 million for another defensive tackle, but neither here nor there. We'll talk
going
about
into
that
2019. I said, you have Dexter Lawrence and Dalvin Tomlinson as the starters, and I was, I wasn't expecting BJ Hill to even match his sack numbers, but I was comfortable with him as the 3rd guy in the rotation. Yeah. Never once did I worry ooh, BJ Hill, the 3rd guy in the 3rd guy in the rotation.
Yeah, Bobby, in 2019,
I can't blame BJ Hill for having those 3 guys ahead of him because those 3 guys are the best defensive tackles on most teams.
Yeah, in 2019, he really started. He was getting starter snaps, 68%, 77% of the defensive snaps in the first 2 weeks. Then it took a dip down to around 50%, jumped back up to over 60%, and then the Arizona game took a very big dip down, only played 19 defensive snaps. Might have been hurt, I don't know. But then after that, he didn't get a single game where he had above 50% of the defensive snaps. He got 51% of the defensive snaps against Miami, and that's when we traded for Leonard Williams. There were 30%, 25%, a lot of games where he was in the mid-20s and then even high teens of the percentage of defensive snaps after we traded for Leonard Williams. So even, is he going to go on a Dalvin Tomlinson trajectory? I don't even think he's going to be given the chance to get enough, reps under his sail to get him going to even have any kind of Dalvin Tomlinson trajectory. Again, no fault to his own.
Do you think he has any trade value?
He might because
do you think we could get a 5th rounder for him?
Yeah, he might because you're seeing, Calais now a lot of these older defensive tackles that are being traded and thrown around all across the NFL. And it's kind of funny that they're not getting a lot of value. Calais Campbell is a really good player. I don't care how old he is. He's a really good player, but he didn't even get a ton of value from him. BJ Hill's young. He's got a few years left on his rookie deal. We might be able to get a 5th or a 4th round pick out of him if the Giants choose to go that route this year, which I wouldn't mind. We're rooting for the guys in blue, but I wouldn't mind.
Also, he's the perfect type of guy to be a sweetener in a trade deal too. If you're doing a package deal, I don't think he would just command a 5th round because 1, the production, because of where he is on the depth chart, and 2, like you said, it's at the position defensive tackle. But I think he would be I think he'd be an awesome sweetener deal. If we traded him to the Rams fans would be excited. Wow, this BJ, we got BJ Hill in this deal too. So
I will say
Evan Ingram and BJ Hill to the Rams is what I'm saying.
Oh my gosh! Don't even throw that out there. But I will say, to maybe kind of wrap us up, because this is maybe something I should have said earlier. Because thinking about Patrick Graham's defense, instead of just looking at 2019 for BJ Hill, let's actually think of going forward of what this could look like. Patrick Graham does use 4 down defensive linemen, and I'm not just talking about with your outside linebackers like Golden and Carter and Zimenez, them putting their hands in the dirt, and then you have your 2 defensive tackles. Bobby, I saw, reps last year where Patrick Graham had 4 big linemen and he had 4 down linemen with you're kind of like a prototypical 4-3, except there wasn't 3 linebackers behind you. So I think you get the picture of what I'm trying to say. So basically, there are going to be sets where we have B.J. Hill, Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams, and Dalvin Tomlinson. They're all going to be on the field at the same time. That it may be rare, but it is going to happen.
Yeah, especially when you got B.J. Hill who can play that 5 technique, outside the offensive tackle,
I
similar
like
to
that.
Leonard Williams. So, it's going to be interesting to see how B.J. Hill works into all these plans. Anyways, that's a player profile preview. We'll see you guys next time. Like I said, an episode every weekday. We love you guys. We'll see you next time. Until then, let's go Big Blue.